Hi there, and welcome to another relaxing long play. Today, we finally embark on construction of new walls and towers for Boatlandia's Great Manor, and although the building process heavily impacts the frame rate, once the manor is complete, we come out on the other side with our town grandeur and our returned frames. So, without further ado, grab a drink, make yourself comfortable, and relax alongside me in Manor Lords. Much of the harvest and the ploughing is done, so let's go to our farmhouses. So it looks like we're pretty busy here, so we're still just finishing off sowing in the last couple of fields down here. So we've got that farmhouse and that one, and they're both still busy, so we'll leave them full and to it for the moment. But with some of our spare labour, let's increase the number of workers at the windmills so that we can make sure we're turning all of that lovely grain into flour. We've already got this one up here at full capacity. And it looks like we're still finishing off sowing there as well, so that's absolutely fine. And let's head on over to our other regions and ensure the same is going on. So the full contingent here. They're still at work getting the fields ready. And same can be said of these guys. So we've activated some fields here, some new barley fields for the first time, so they are going to be especially busy. And we still have a couple of fields being worked on over here. So we're not quite ready to transition into the windmills yet. In fact, I'm going to reduce the number of people working in the windmills by 2. And we're going to assign some extra labour, probably to building an additional farmhouse, so that we can make sure we always have enough labour available when it comes time for harvest. Pop that one in there. And then over here in the Lagstrasse, let's see how we're getting on with the farms. So it looks like we're pretty much done with these two. They've done all their planting for the year. And they're just putting the last few sheaths into grains. So let's reduce the numbers right down and get the windmill active. We may even want to build a second windmill, given that we have so much grain sat around. 161 wheat and 122 rye. So where can we pop this? Reasonable efficiency down here, but I imagine we'll get better up here. 100%. We'll pop that one there and connect it back up to the road. And with all our freed up labour, we'll make sure that, yep, the quarries are all at full output. And we'll get back to construction down here. Do with cabbages and beets. I think that's what we were waiting for. We've got carrots in this one here. And we wanted beets here. So we'll order some beets in and upgrade it. And where we've got a couple of houses ready to upgrade to the next level of burgage plot, we will oblige. And then we'll swing right over to Manlook. We'll have to come up with a more imaginative name for Manlook, I think, since we've started to rename some of the others. And we're all done here as well, pretty much with turning everything into grain. So let's free up as many workers as possible. And we'll get the windmills up and running. And we have actually got an abundance of spare labour here, so let's get straight on with upgrading some of the burgage plots as and when we can. And we're also going to have to come back to these and make sure that we have got everything assigned in terms of their production in their back gardens. And the new church is also under construction now, which is grand. Wonderful, and as winter settles in, we'll just go and check up on Ironheart. So we're down to 4 months of fuel, so let's get some of the charcoal kilns operational, so we can start turning some of that firewood into charcoal so it can be more efficiently used. And we've still plenty of living space here. We're still sort of filling up what was left to us here before we start thinking about any kind of expansion and consolidation. We will want to definitely be growing food out here, and probably barley, because this is the other fertile region on the map. But like I say, I want to stabilise things here in terms of food production and jobs before we do that. And we can free up a couple of fishermen as we go into winter actually, and assign them to the charcoal kilns. And then we'll head back on over the lake. Down to Boatlandia. And I'd imagine for the year we're done now. Yep, so everyone is crafting or going home. So let's reduce the number in the farmhouses right down, so that they can be used elsewhere. We'll leave 2 there, they can work their way through the grain, producing the grain. We'll do the same with this one here. And that frees up our construction pool. And we'll also ensure we've enough workers at the windmills. Yep, we've got plenty. So I think it's finally time that we hit go. So, prestigious moment, we're going to commit to the construction of the castle. Prestigious enough, the game is taking its time thinking about it. There we go. The palisades are gone, apart from the doors. We obviously want to keep the doors. We wouldn't want to get rid of the doors at the same time as the fences, because then how would people know that we are mysterious and magical without our floating doors? Lovely. Well, floating doors aside, we have 22 families available to help with the construction. So hopefully we'll see that start to fly together. It would be nice to think we could have it constructed by the end of winter and by early spring. But we know how slowly these projects tend to go, so I wouldn't hold our breath. One of the other things I want to address here in Boatlandia is I'd really like to get as many properties as we can up to level 3. And that means 2 things. That means addressing the level of alcohol we have available, which probably means bringing in more malt, and we actually have a slight surplus of malt. We can't see it up in these tabs up here, but if we dived into the records and go to resources, we can actually find malt in here, and you can see we have a region stock of 54. So we're not using as much as we're bringing over from Pack Station from Frostjack. So we are going to need to get an additional brewery, and that will hopefully help with the stock and supply of alcohol. And the other issue is clothing. I think part of that is that the tailor shops we have here, so I was going to say aren't terribly efficient, but that one is. Some of these aren't terribly efficient. So we might need to add more of those. We can also add some, now that we have some domestic flax production and linen. As a result, we can start to, 48 linen, we can start to also make some clothes from linen. So actually, let's go over to one of these tailors' shops and let's set them to make clothing from linen.
Come one, come all.
So as part of addressing that supply chain problem, we probably need to be putting some housing up here. The reason we need to put some housing up here, I think, is everyone that works in this kind of industrial sector seems to be commuting from a long way. So you can see people working at this forester's hut actually live down here, and a lot of our housing now is based on this side of the river where the manor is rather than the initial settlement that we had. Actually, while we're talking about that, we'll free up these foresters to go and help with construction because they can't do anything in the winter. We appear to still be paying the brigands despite the fact that they no longer exist. Okay, I guess we'll just think of it as a bit of extra taxation. And we'll get rid of that worker there as well. So what I'd like to do is add some compact housing up here and then start, because most of the residents over here as well, especially in this area, are all artisans, so they're not actually available for regular jobs. So what I'd like to do is add some compact housing up here, and we can use them and manually assign them to these workplaces, hopefully making them more efficient. And possibly add some extra granaries and storehouses. And again, here for the tailor shops, etc. What I think I would like to do is build another storehouse. A storehouse that's only going to accept materials associated with clothing, and they're not going to have any role in terms of operating a market stall. Their only job is going to be ensuring that we've got a supply of... I'll just slot that in here. I've got a good supply of the materials needed here and for our clothing industry, and hopefully that's going to reduce the amount of time that these families spend travelling around getting everything that they need. So we'll put that to the highest priority for construction, so materials start to get moved over there. And how are we doing with the food we've harvested? So we're producing a fair amount of bread. We're working our way through our grain, and we're still turning some of the harvest into grain. So, how are stonemason station stocks damaged by the weather? Yeah, the stone has frozen, everyone, and it's ruined it. It's absolutely ruined it. Can't see how, but there we are. Can't believe we're finally starting construction of our stone walls. You can see materials being dragged in, ready for the construction. Parts of the wall being laid out ready. A very exciting time indeed to be in Boatlandia. So as that progresses, we can see we've got plenty of available living space. Regional wealth is going up, which is great because soon we're going to be able to afford to open up a trading route for large shields. That's at 1200, and we've got just over 1000 as it stands. In terms of other things to export from here, I'm thinking we might export our eels as well as the other things we're exporting. And we'll also start to set up economies elsewhere as well, because eventually, once we get through the surface deposit of iron over at Ironheart, which we're currently shipping out to our various towns via pack station, we're not going to have good access to iron, so we are going to have to buy that in universally across the regions to make things such as tools. And to do that, we're going to need to make sure we've got a reasonable economy, because eventually we'll need to drop taxation, so we're not bringing money to our treasury, because it's just going to be taken by the king anyway. So we'll want to keep that wealth within our regions proper. Our logging camps here are full, but that's to be expected. And we're not working on that storehouse, but that's because work on the manor walls is progressing. So while they get on with that, we'll head on over to Frostcheck. You can see we're still burying bodies from the war we had, from the invasion, so we'll put an extra family to the corpse pit so they can continue with burying the poor souls that passed away in the conflict, although, yeah, kind of their fault, they came to us. So let's reduce the number of workers in these farmhouses, because they're not needed at present. And let's assign a couple of extra workers to the mills. So I imagine we have some grain to get through. Not loads actually, but we don't need to assign 3 families to each. We'll just stick with 2 for the time being. And we'll reduce that there as well. And then how is construction going in the new district? Let's order... Oh, not yet. Livestock trader isn't around, that's fine. Let's get some additional workers at the granary and storehouse. We'll go up to 3 families in each of these because actually we're going to have quite a dense population over here. And do they have access to everything they need? So they've got access to food, vegetables, animal produce. Clothing is an issue. So we're not producing shoes here. We've got 28 shoes. The production just isn't quite reaching yet. And shoes actually and clothes is something I'd like to export from here in addition to the charcoal. So we've got plenty of hides at the moment. So what I'd like to do is get one of these properties set up making clothing. And we'll do that with this one here. We'll make that into a tailor's workshop. And the neighbour there, we're going to convert into a cobbler's workshop. And let's go and visit our tannery. So we've got 3 workers here. Very low productivity. They're spending a bit of their time waiting, most of the time at their extensions. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to unassign these families. I'm not going to demolish it yet because I would like this leather picked up and I don't want to do that during winter in case we lose a resource. But what we're going to do is we're going to open up a couple of tanneries down here where we have more of our housing located. They've got access to some woodland nearby for bark, so that's excellent. And they'll have access to workers who don't have large extensions to work, so they should be able to produce more leather. And then it'll also be local to the artisans we have using them. I'll wait for the trader as well so we can buy in some goats probably. So we've got some pork production, but the goats are going to be necessary to keep up our hide production so that we can eventually open up that shoe export. So that's really our goal at the minute. And actually, while we've got plenty of workers free, let's get to building animal pens. We can always convert animal pens into artisans at a later date. But we can do animal pens from level 1. Whereas obviously if we get someone moving to a new house, it could take a little while before they're ready to upgrade to level 2, and that's just time they're spent idle. So we'll get all of those upgrades underway. And we'll also then look at our food situation here. We could definitely do with more vegetables, so we are going to need to open up some additional vegetable burgish plots. And we don't need anyone working in the foresters' huts at this time of year, so we'll free up those workers as well. And we'll put them to work at the charcoal kilns. We've got lots of firewood we can be turning into charcoal. So then let's take a look at fertility, because we are going to want to significantly extend barley production. So that's going to be somewhere we're going to grow barley eventually. At the moment it is our foresting area though. Good barley fertility over here. Good on the border. And typically reasonable where we've decided to set up our village, but it's really good there, so we're definitely going to use that. We might even expand into this area here, but this is looking like the most likely expansion. And then the flax fertility here, rye fertility here is fine. That's good for flax, so that will be flax. And then the remaining around here that's green will be barley, or perhaps a combination of barley and flax in these areas. So where do we have for barley fertility? So I'm thinking here going up into this forest. So if we draw a couple of lines, just so we don't start running over any barley fertility, which is going to be the most important product we produce here, so we can produce alcohol for the other regions to allow for expansion. So we'll build a couple of roads here, so we don't accidentally do away with what is a very important resource. And then in this space, we can get some very large burgage plots constructed, whose job will be to produce vegetables for us. If you're enjoying the video, it would warm my tea if you could pop me a like, drop a comment with feedback, or make a suggestion. As always, thank you for joining me, and know you're appreciated. So let's reduce the number of properties here. That's 3 with extensions. There's a massive one here though, so I might slightly redo this. Can we actually get around? What do we come up here? Follow this all the way around. And fill out like this. So this one is still very large on this side, but the other two are a good size too, so let's build that there, and it's a little bit more interesting than straight fields anyway. And that will expand our vegetable production in this region. And we've already got a stone church here, so that's fine. And we've plenty of food and fuel to see us through the winter here, so there's no worries at all with this region. Let's pop back over to Boatlandia. And let's assign an additional family. How are we doing for helms? 44 helms. And every man is equipped with a helm. So I might convert this armourer's workshop. But we could also look for somewhere else. Here, for example. So we're going to lose a couple of workers by doing this, which actually probably isn't ideal on this side of the river. So let's go down here to our newly constructed area. How are we doing for productivity down here? Quite high actually, that's good. Good productivity down here. And we could really do with making more shoes here as well, actually. So it looks like leather and hides is the production limiting factor down here. So it's a good thing we've got all of these baggage plots set up for goats, so we can start producing more of that. So these properties back here, let's also get these set up with animal pens. And then we'll convert one of the other animal pens that's already at level 2, like we were saying with the other regions. And we're going to turn that into an additional brewery. We may even want 2 breweries, because we do have an excess of malt at the moment. So we're going to convert you into a brewery, and we can convert you into a brewery. Side by side. And how are we doing with construction of the new walls? Looks like we're still laying out materials. And the royal tax going up once more. There's no end to the taxation, is there? Getting a little close to home, the taxation. I think we will be waiting probably until next winter to really start the construction project up here for the additional housing, because it's going to be needed all through the winter for building the walls of the manor, and then as soon as we get into spring it's going to be needed for the farms once more. Over the hillside of Mandlik, Looks like we've finished the church construction here, which is grand. And what are people lacking in this region? Water access. Goodness. That is quite the oversight. We can certainly fix that easily enough. How many properties has that been keeping at level 1? Oh dear. I'm sure you have all been screaming at me. But never fear. Better late than never. Even go as far as to get 2 additional wells constructed. And already upgrades are popping up as available, and we've got plenty of workers here to work on construction, so we'll crack straight on with getting those upgraded, and that should significantly boost our income by getting some level 2 burgage plots up and running. And as and when we get people moving in to these over here, we can start setting those up for production of fruits from trees. We've ended up with quite an orderly village here in Manlac compared to how some of our others have grown a little bit more organically. We're working on a tannery here as well. And we'll make sure that we've got a cobbler to work with what's being produced. So just as soon as a couple of these get up to level 2, we'll start by converting one of those into a cobbler. Actually, we already have a cobbler over here, which doesn't have good supply of leather from a tannery, so as soon as that tannery is complete we need to get some people working there, so we'll up the priority of that a smidgen as well. And we have plenty of construction work going on here at the moment, so let's whip on over from the Land of the Lost to Ironheart. And let's address, we've got a large storehouse here. Let's get an additional family working there. Fuel has gone up nicely, so we're going to nick a family from the charcoal kiln. And possibly a couple from the mine as well. And we're going to put them, one of them, into the granary, wherever that's located. At least here I have the excuse of the fact that I didn't set up this village. I've got no excuse in the others because I built everything in them. Logging camp, burgage plot, church, storehouse, granary. Get an additional family there and also upgrade that to a large granary. It's probably not going to be next year that we're starting to build some fields over here, because I think we need to build up the population a little bit before we do anything much more than that. Nasvice, which I'm going to rename to the last land. We're going to settle here. Potentially this year might be a good time actually, because we've had a recent raid from marauders, so we're not expecting one of those for a little while, so this would be a good time to get a settlement off the ground. And we've not got enough pasture space here, so I believe we have all of our fields set up with pasture space. So why don't we look at the possibility of expanding our farm space here. So primarily we're getting rye here, and we've plenty of rye fertility down the bottom here. We've used up pretty much everything around these fields. There's some by the manor, and it's very fertile under our village. Oops. And so why not here at the end of the King's Road? This might be a good location. So let's kind of mark out where these fields are going to be with a couple of sweeping roads. That's pretty good, and then we'll match the other one up, almost finishing by these berries. And we'll sweep down here across the middle and join back up with that road. And just double check. Yeah. And to avoid destroying the berry bushes, which are right down in here, why don't we just come across here and then back down like that. Splendid. So we're probably going to want an additional farmhouse down here to work these. So let's build these on this side. And then let's set up some fields. As always, we want these to be about a Morgan in size. And we want to make maximum use of the size of the map. So we'll set that to high fertility, and we'll come up here. 1.4 Morgans is slightly smaller. So that's one. And we'll just keep working our way across here. Slightly too big there, so we'll reduce that by a point there. And one more again, I think. As long as they're within a couple of points of the Morgan size that we're after. And this one, let's continue this road here down there, and hopefully that will allow us to slightly better shape this field so that we can make good use of the space available to us. That is lovely. So what have we got there so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we probably ought to delete this road here. And then rebuild it. Make sure those are all reconnected. And then let's get another 3 on here. For the time being. And we've got those additional farmhouses being built to help with that construction, or those farms when they're open next year. And straight away what we're going to do is we're going to open these up, construction, and turning them into pasture space. And that should more than cater for our sheep farm livestock problem. I'm also going to build a couple of sheep farms here as well, since this is probably where most of our sheep are going to be located now. And then we'll build a road across the back of those there too. And there's lots here with storage full. So the stone camps are actually full. So what we're going to do to help with that is we're going to build a storehouse here. And that storehouse can be primarily for stone to be stored there. And got a fair number of shoes here, so that's okay. We've got plenty of pork. So let's set these to goats so we can produce food, but also produce leather and hides. It looks like we've got a couple of houses here as well, ready to be upgraded, so we will upgrade those. And we need to start building some extensions here where people have started to move in. Where we already have the extensions, order in the animals we've been talking about. And let's get some chickens as well. We don't need to just have pork and chevron. And talking of specific storehouses, let's whip back on over to Boatlandia. Have we built this storehouse here? No, we're halfway there. Let's set that to the highest priority, so we can get some of the labour taken off of the manor construction project. And we've still got a fair number of goods to transport down here. We're not even halfway on transporting goods at the moment. So that'll continue to happen over time. And nearly done with that granary. We've got 27 unassigned families working away. And we've still got plenty of grain to work our way through, so I'm not going to free anyone up from the windmills just yet. So hopefully soon we'll have that storehouse put together. But we certainly are using all of our labour really to build the manor at the moment, and that's probably going to be a drain on labour for a little while here. It's probably going to harm our export. Now, how are we doing for food? We've got food for 14 months, so food isn't really a problem here in Boatlandia. Apparently cold is. Why are you cold? You have fuel. Clothing is the issue. Yep, but we're working on it. We know. We know it's an issue. It's for a level 2 Berg's plot. They're quite happy with shoes or clothes. And we're working on producing more of each. So let's get an additional worker at tannery. And hopefully the number of hides we have coming in will also really start to pick up with all these additional properties down here. And we'll make sure to order in goats as soon as we can at any of these dwellings where we haven't already got something set up. And it looks like we've got a few here that have been missed at some juncture as well. So we'll order some goats in down there. And just do a quick flyover elsewhere to make sure there's nowhere else that's missing. They've been there since day one. Okay. So in terms of food, I think what I'd like to do, instead of eating the eel, I would like to export the eel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the trading post. And we're going to open up the trade route for eel. We're going to export every single darned eel you've ever seen. So at the granaries, I'm going to make sure they do not accept eel. And we'll build a dedicated granary over here, which will be for exported food types, such as eel. And we'll just have to see if we can't work our way around, find all of our granaries and eliminate eel from their permitted goods. Got this one down here as well. We've got a new one under construction over here. We can't access just yet. And we've got one down here. So we'll remove eel from all of those. Now we'll have to remember to do that as we construct new ones as well, so that eel becomes another resource that we can safely send on its way as an export to help bring in some additional funds. And we've actually got a couple of clothes that are staying there for more than a few seconds, and the amount of ale we've got looking between 0 and 28, which is weird. So do we have ale or don't we have ale? People seem to have ale. And let's go to the tavern. Yeah, we've got a slight overstock. Spending a little time transporting. We need an additional worker there. But do we have people down here covered by a tavern at all? Doesn't look like it, because our secondary tavern... Oh, did we actually ever build a secondary tavern? Down here. Yeah, it's just here. So they've got a bit of an overstock issue. So they're only really getting stock to a couple of the locals. Ooh, suddenly got a lot better. So let's assign an additional family to work there. And what I think we'll do also is we will, up here, look to build a small tavern. To service the top end of our village here. So we'll pop that there. And this storehouse has been complete, so we don't need to have any stalls. And you're only to have goods relating to clothing. So that's going to be hides, leather, pelts, linen, wool and yarn, obviously clothes and shoes, and we don't need anything from the military list or fuels, and we'll set a family to work there. And how are we doing making our way through grains? We're still getting there. And before long it's going to be spring and we're going to need to start transitioning people back into the forestries. And over in Frostcheck, let's check on these residents down here. Looks like we've got a few ready to be upgraded. We'll order in their goats first before upgrading them. If we can click on the right houses. And then we'll upgrade those to level 2. And what's holding the others back is clothing supply, which hopefully we're on our way to addressing with the additional cobbler shop we've opened up. And let's increase the priority of getting one of these tanneries open. And the rest of the village proper looks fine how it is. Let's get these set up for vegetable plots. And then sweep right on over into Lagstrasse. Let's check the pig veil. And the issue here again is water access, which shows just how much attention I've been paying to the needs of the people that I supposedly look after. But apparently they can do just fine without water. So I don't know why I'm bothering giving it to them, really. How about these down here? Same problem? Same problem. So let's just work on a little bit of maintenance and make sure that we've got everything set up for our local residents. They have access to what they need. We probably ought to do that in all of our regions as well. And we do actually have enough now, I believe. As we teleport. To commit to this castle here as well, but I'm going to hold off on that for a minute because there is plenty enough to be done here as it is. Let's open up the second windmill with 3 families so we can continue to produce that flour we need. We didn't actually free anyone up from the foresters this year, but I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. We're already at the point that we need to be producing. We need to have people working in them anyway as the first thaws start to set in. And we've taken care of the pasture space, so we can probably see down here somewhere some sheep, or not. Perhaps they're blending in. But we do have the sheep farms, so let's get a couple of workers down here, just a family in each of those for the time being. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower taxation here to 5% to get some additional approvals so we can help increase the number of people we have moving in. And that's something I'm going to do more or less universally across our regions. Because the only thing we actually need money for is hiring in mercenaries. And the only thing we need that for is defending against brigand armies. And actually, with the few banners of spear we have and the couple of retinues we have as well, I think we have enough to fend off attacks fairly well. There's no point in bringing in money for the sake of it. We're getting there with the dress stone supply down here in Boatlandia. These chaps seem to be stuck in the manor. We'll send them in this direction and hope that they eventually find the door. They're not the smartest folk, our retinues. But we don't pay them to be smart. We pay them to know how to use a sword. So something we should have checked in Boatlandia is water access. As we've established, that's something that we are universally missing. Or maybe we're just missing it in regions outside of Boatlandia. We seem to have done a reasonable job over here. Okay, so let's go and check Mandlak for the same thing. Yeah, and we could do with some additional water access here. So where can we squeeze that in? So we can get one here. We can't quite fit one here. We might actually have to get rid of that burgish plot on the end to get a well in there. And following suit with what we've been doing elsewhere, let's order goats galore. Hides and leather will be a problem of the past. And we'll get a couple of workers down here at the tannery to ensure the next step in that chain. Because that's what's holding us back at the moment. So we've got those vegetable plots there. And as these are constructed, let's get them ready for their orchards. And we've got a little bit of construction going on here still, it's fine. Skip over the Lost once more and head down into Ironheart. And as with before, things are steadily progressing over here. Actually got a couple of plots ready for upgrading, so we'll do that. We don't have an abundance of families available for construction here though. So we'll set those to upgrade and will free up a family from the mine. And we'll get that rubble repaired there as well. And then from over in the last land, once again, Lagstrasse, where we continue to have properties ready for upgrading to the next level. And that's going to bring a degree of passive income in any case, even without taxation. We'll get an additional family working at that granary to ensure good flow of goods. And we will set up this storehouse to accept only stone related products. So we'll just get rid of all of these. It's a handy thing there. And we'll get a family working here and upgrade it as well to a large storehouse. So at the trading post, let's get an additional livestock. And we're spending quite a bit of time on transportation, so let's get a second worker at this trading post. And here as well. So we are exporting rubble stone. We're exporting dress stone. And also from here, we would like to eventually be exporting pork and leather. So on the food side, we're already exporting pork, so that's fine, we're over 120. And then leather, we'll set to export. And when we've got more than 200, so we can make sure we're making enough shoes. And from Lagstrasse to Frostcheck, got a couple of houses ready for upgrading, so once again, start with the goats. Proceed with the upgrade. So we've got a lot of additional barley here this year, I think for the first time. That's going to help with malt production, and then the amount of malt in turn that we'll be passing on to Boatlandia. So how are we doing here for ale? Still struggling a little bit. Let's check our records and go to resources. Crafting materials and malt, so we've got 110 in stock. And how are we doing for turning that into ale? We're producing 30 clothes now. So that has gone up this year. And we've got 58 ale in stock actually in the region. Producing 8, so let's be bold. Not bald. And let's open up a third brewery. And get goats ordered for all of these properties here that are ready for them. And at the tavern, yeah, we've got a good stock here. So I think the next step really is to get that additional tavern constructed. And then over at our original tavern, yep, we've got good storage here as well. And we're supplying a reasonable amount of ale to our patrons. Don't know how far that covers down here. It doesn't, so we have got a gap. A gap that might be serviced quite well by having a tavern over here. So we will set one of those up ready. Can we get it on this side of the river? Yeah, we can. We'll put that there and build an additional bridge. And that might be something we can replicate along here. Additional bridges to make sure we've got good road networks. Connecting up our region. And hopefully we're starting to get on top of the clothing issue.
You'll not find finer wares anywhere else.
We've got a lot of flour. We might need to get an additional bakery open. We have got linen, we have got yarn. Which is telling me we need more tailors. How are we doing down here? Yeah, we're nice and productive, so that tells me that I do want to turn more of these into tailors' workshops. Let's build 2 of them. And as we do that, we are going to want to start thinking about then replacing those houses with more, so that we can continue with our expansion and production of everything goat related. So let's pop a road up here and build another small hamlet of properties just behind these. And we'll take off Snapter Road so we can get this a little bit smaller. It doesn't need to be that big to have properties at the rear. So pop that there. And I think we'll immediately double up on that. With some more behind it. Start with snapping to road and turn it off once we get to the second snap point. Lovely, so we've got those there. And we might as well place then additional housing up here where we intend it to be. And I'm thinking just along this road here. Like so. And we want to have slightly more space in these, so we do want to have extensions, because these are more about accommodating people than they are about just producing everything we need for production item. So we've got a few things starting to be installed at this storehouse. I'm spending most of the time on transportation, so I'm keen to get an additional worker here. So really we're tackling the clothing problem from 3 fronts. We're trying to increase our production of leather, which in turn we can turn into an increased production of shoes. And we're trying to increase our production of clothing. We have a fair amount of wool coming in with plenty of yarn still at the moment, so that we can be producing clothes. And we've also got linen from the flax production as well. We'll get a third family working at that tannery. And the thaw is beginning. But Landia really is starting to become quite a sizable nation. So let's set our first 2 orchards up to be apples and pears. And the third is completed, that'll be quinches. So as spring begins to leap into action, let's continue to set up these burgish plots with what we'll be wanting them to produce. Which, as ever, is a combination of animal pens and chickens. Let's just do an entire row of chickens across the back here. Apart from you, you shall be an apiary. And then let's go over to our foresters and start to make sure that we have people employed there. And we'll speed things along a little bit as well. Ooh. Indeed, there are many, many people to manage. And the game is definitely feeling the effects. Okay, so with those foresters assigned, we'll head over and do the same in Boatlandia. Get our foresters active. To ensure that we have plenty of forests to harvest in the coming years. Deforestation is indeed no joke. And we've started to get our couple of buildings together at the manor. So the guard towers are going up. Bedroom is a little lacking in the main gate, I've got to say. Yeah, everyone's going to smash their head walking through there. In terms of materials though, we've transported pretty much everything we're going to need. It's just the planks and a couple of rubble stone now that are being sent over. So it's good to see the roofs starting to go on those initial towers. Exciting progress. So with that underway, you see we've actually got a shoe in stock. Wondrous times indeed. And the number of sheep we have available also continues to grow. And we've made our way through most of the grains, to the point at which I'm going to free up some of these windmill workers. And we'll just check that there's nothing that needs doing at the farms with any sort of immediacy. No, it looks fine. So we'll continue to work on construction, which there is much to do in Boatlandia. And we'll sweep on over and check up on Frostcheck. And we've got a lot of flax sat around. So do we have any of that being turned into linen? We do not. And we've actually only got a little bit of yarn. We've got lots of wool. So where is our weaver's workshop? Down here, I believe. Ah, I remembered something. So they're obviously very busy people. Very busy people. We'll just reassign some families there. And I think that probably means we need to open up an additional weaver's workshop. And we'll put this over by our new population centre. Our tanneries would be a good location. In fact, let's put this just behind the tanneries. So let's put that there, connect a road down there, and let's open up one of these tanneries to full capacity. We'll get one family working next door there as well. And did we get everyone on the fields here? I don't know that we did. Yeah, we've got people out in the fields. So let's make sure we fill up our farms with the spare labour so they can get out and get working immediately. And we've plenty of labour available to get on with that, which is wonderful. And eventually we will want to start making some of our own brewed good stuff here as well, so we can upgrade properties further. And that might be something we look to do in the not too distant future. And actually, with all of this spare labour for farmhouses, well, we'll leave some available for construction. We won't completely exploit everyone just yet. And got anyone with the forager's hut? Yes, we do. And we should be well on our way to producing a lot of leather. We've got 250 spare hides, so I'm definitely going to fill up this addition tannery here. And it'd probably be a good idea to get a second worker, another family, at this storehouse here as well. We'll free up a couple more farmers there, because we do need families for construction. So there's a lot of it to be done. And it's amazing actually how close now Crosscheck and Lagstrasse are. They really do border onto each other. One flows nicely into the other. And down here, it's already March, but do we have... I don't know what our labour situation here is in Crosscheck, so we'll have to wait for that to update. In the meantime, we will open up some additional production down here, where we have properties ready to be assigned. And these others will also start turning ready when we have people move in. And we'll do a variety. Some chickens, some apiary, and some animal pen. Right the way to the end of the row. And that there is a fair bit of expansion space. No one living at the new vegetable plots just yet, but in time I'm sure they'll move in. Get an additional worker there, and we've got plenty of houses ready for upgrading who finally, yes, who finally have water access. Which you would have thought would be something that would happen fairly early on. Indeed, water is probably the first thing you should give your population. But we didn't quite get there. We're not going to stress about it, we're just going to move on. Upgrade all these properties. See the money roll into our coffers. And move on with our lives. And one of these days, that bar at the top will update to reflect where we actually are. In fact, once we've upgraded all of these, we'll just tab around until we're back, but with the right name. And there we go. So, have we got through? We've still got some grain to get through. But I'll reduce each of those by a couple. We have plenty of foresters at work. And we don't have loads of spare labour, so I'm not going to open up any of these fields down the bottom this year. will be something we look to do next year. And so many places ready to be upgraded to level 2. So we said this year would be a good time to settle in the last land, as we called it. So we've got rich berries and we've got rich wild animals, so I think settling maybe here would be a good place to settle. What do we have in terms of rye fertility? So right here, so we're definitely going to want to farm there as well, and abhorrent here. So I think, why don't we go? It's actually not great all the way along the coastline. So why don't we go for a settlement that sits right along the waterfront? We can have houses all the way across here. That sounds like a great idea to me. So with that in mind, let's plant a settlement. We'll do it just here. We might as well go for plentiful. We've got plenty of money. And let's set out that road. How close do we want to come to the water's edge? We might actually then continue that along through cross-check. So let's actually line up with that one there, and we'll mimic it with a small gap to the waterfront. We'll come all the way along here. Just following the lay of the land. And we might as well carry all the way in to here. Quite the road. And then that can then climb up the cliff here. In a type of coastal footpath, I suppose. Before winding its way back down to the water's edge. And there could really be a lovely waterfront path through various regions. So since we've got so many initial resources, I think we're still going to start with our granary. So we'll connect this back up to the road here. And we will build a granary and a storehouse. And we will set up a marketplace just here as well. And then we'll get our first properties set up here. Just a couple to start with. That looks good. And then we'll put a road in here. And then put in a logging camp. And we'll probably plant some trees here to log, but for the time being we can get rid of these. So put the logging camp there. And we'll put down the woodcutter's lodge nearby as well. And then straight away we'll get a couple of forester's huts here to start building out there. And we're also going to move this directly opposite there. And we have settled the last land. So while they're busy working away down here, glide on to some of our neighbouring regions. making good progress. The harvest is growing nicely. We're doing well for fuel, well for food. And actually already we've fully populated the newly constructed village in Frostcheck. Order in an ox there. We're producing a good number of clothes. Which hopefully at some point will work its way into the market. And how are we doing for the farms? Still working on those in this region. There is a lot to work. So we'll leave them to it and we will build our first waterside homes here as well. So we might as well fill this space. I want to do it though in such a way that we're not... I really want the waterside properties to face the waterfront. Okay, quite happy with that. Let's make these double dwellings so they can be larger houses. So we'll set those for construction with anyone that's free to do so. And let's... where's our road end here? Somewhere in the forest. Just here, I'm guessing. So we'll take that road and we'll continue it along here, where it'll cut back to come up this hill. And connect in by the church. I do like the way that sweeps down there. In Boatlandia, and already, with those roads there, this is starting to feel much more connected up than it was previously. You can see that planting is going well here. We've got trees popping up. And more of the towers have been constructed at Boatlandia. Before too long, we might even start to see work on the walls. Very exciting indeed. Looks like we didn't quite get there with some of the planting actually. So let's get a full division of farmers in here. Just going to slow construction down a little bit, but we do need to make use of the fields that we have. And construction is mostly paused while we work on the manor. So things have stalled a little bit here. And we're actually in minus money for the first time because we're only bringing in a tiny amount in taxation. But it's making our regions happy. Say that. People could be happier, couldn't they? Do like the look of those stone towers. Proper castle going together. So how are we doing when it comes to production of clothing? So leather, we could definitely be producing more. Hopefully the number of hides we have is starting to pick up though. Malt, we've got plenty of malt in the region, and I don't think actually that ale is really a problem anymore. We've got 87 regional stocks, that's fantastic. And then as far as clothing is concerned, we're producing 23, so production is definitely ramping up, which is really good to see. And we have got shoes as well, and that is starting to ramp up, so we're definitely on the up when it comes to things we need to be producing to keep people happy and to keep upgrades coming. And these tailors down here, this side of the river, Manor side I suppose we should call it, tends to be a little bit more productive by the looks of things. Not massively, but I think the productivity down here is probably an issue with supply of yarn. Yeah, I've just got 13 available, 5 linen. We have a lot of sheep, 372 sheep. So how are we doing? Are we selling wool? That wouldn't be good. Let's double check, make sure we're not selling wool. Oh heck. I'm not actually getting anywhere near exporting it though, so we'll just turn trade off for that. And we should be exporting eel now as well. And let's go and review the wool situation. So we're producing 357. Just dropped slightly actually. Stock levels. So we do have wool sat around. We are making quite a lot of wool. But it would always be good to make more. So let's have a look down here. We've got the new sheep farms which are under construction, but they're not quite there yet. So we'll just continue to let that grow organically. But once we solve that problem with wool and with yarn and with clothes, we should be well on our way to, and shoes, all the clothing items, we should be well on our way to getting a bunch of properties upgraded to level 3. I actually want to make sure that we're not trading away roof tiles, as we're definitely going to need those in future, and they're expensive to buy in. With that in mind, let's check that we're still making clay once a month. And we're not. So let's reassign some of these families of the miners' row that we built all those years ago, and let's assign them back to the mines and hope that we can produce at least a little bit of clay. Because without clay we're going to have to buy in roof tiles, which I do not want to be doing.
Cabbages, turnips.
Definitely don't need that many people working at the clay furnace, so we'll free some of them up. They're pretty productive at the weaver's workshop. And let's check the sheep farms. They're pretty efficient as well, so that's good. The roof is going on the latest tower. The orchards are blooming. And hopefully soon we'll see production on the walls start. Speed things along a bit and see if we can see that kick into action as blossoms start to appear on the trees. And people are going about their jobs assiduously. And there we are, the roof's starting to go on. We'll speed things up a little bit more as we see people teleport round Boatlandia. The many families we have here. Oh, and the second tower's going up. Roof's finished on this one. The royal tax is continuing to pummel our ass. But importantly, the manor is coming together. Let's go and check on our neighbouring regions. So we have plenty of space for people to be moving in down here. It all seems to be going well. And look at this, a road going all the way down here across the coast. The first burger spot set out on the coast of the lake as well. Boatlandia filling a good amount of space there as well. And our fresh settlement here coming together as well. Get some workers in the granary and the storehouse so that we have some stores set aside safely. And let's set a working area to our logging camp so we don't impact on our food sources. We'll set that there. Actually, for the time being, let's set it down here. Clear all that timber. And we should also get a forager hut, which will pop just here. And then connect back in like so, with a little curved road. And that will take care of our initial housing needs. So then we'll also want to build some housing with some reasonably large gardens, but that can wait. And Lagstrasse looks like we've got a house or two ready to be upgraded. That's the first of our new vegetable plots moved into, which is positive. And we've got a few upgrades here in the new region of properties there also. And the new farms ready to go over here. Let's swing on over. See how we're doing in frost check. Are we done with the workers at these farms? Yes we are, so let's free them back up for construction. A bit of disparity in the planting here, but that's not a real issue. And look at that. Some of our lakeside dwellings are coming into effect. Let's get rid of the shrubbery here. And over time I'm sure we'll cut these trees down. And let's upgrade these houses along the front as we can, and also set up plots here as well. And we'll also expand their living space as well once we've got through construction on this. And how about that? 2 tiers of lakeside homes. Prime real estate, I am sure. So I'm really happy with how that is starting to look. And we freed up some construction workers now to get on and build those homes as well. And let's check. Got good water access over here, because we know that I am a little bit fallible to not getting that sorted out. So we'll get that there. And we'll see if we can't get a couple of homes build into that space there in the end. And how are we doing down here? Those houses are going together nicely. Just as soon as the forager's hut is together, we'll get together, getting some food for there. We can select what path we go. So I think we'll probably hunting hound. Sure. So, new upgrade hunting ground, increased export price of minor trades, increased capacity for forage good deposits. So that's perfect for here because we've got large wild berries and large rich wild animal deposit as well. So let's go in here and get a hunting camp set up on the main road. And then we'll bring that down to here by ways of a little shortcut. I'll first work at the logging camp. And otherwise make good progress down here. Royal tax goes up once more. Joke's on him because we're not paying. Or at least not paying much. We'll keep upgrading those. And upgrading that property there. We're doing well here with exports, which is good to see. And the game is definitely starting to get a little bit busy. We've got a number of large regions. Our population across the board must be quite high by this point. Let's get down some additional water access wherever we can. And even as those are under construction, I'm tempted to build some more along here. And what do we have here? Oh, the fishers' huts. Once deep in a forest, now on the edge of the ever-expanding village. And we'll make these doubles as well. And set this up there for construction. And are we producing any clay? We are producing a couple of clay a month, which is an abhorrent use of the amount of labour we have there, but that's just how the game is at the moment. And we'll look down the central boat. Still not there with the clothing. It's definitely taking its time. We do have a fair amount of money that's been brought in though, so let's go to the trading post. And let's finally open up trade on large shields. And export everything we've got over 60. And that should really start to bring in some extra money. So what I might do for the time being, let's see how expensive it is to import clothing. Ooh my gosh. Much monies. So I don't think we're going to be doing that. I'm pretty sure there were more towers here last time. It does seem that sometimes they go a little back and forth when it comes to construction. How are we doing? We've got still a third of the year before we get to the harvest. And are we all done with the additional lads we prescribed? Yep. So let's free up all of these farmhouse workers, get back to construction. And let's go over here and check to see if the storehouse we set up is making any difference. So it's clear we need more workers at the storehouse if it's going to make any difference to the efficiency. Tailor shops we have here. It looks like we might need to get additional weaver's workshop. And a good place to put that is probably going to be down by our new farms, new sheep farms. So let's whip one over here. And pop it just here. And we'll pop a road across the front. Ooh, and let's get foresters at these huts as well. So that we can work on getting all this as forested as we possibly can. And that is a lot of information to take in, but look at this here now. So we've got our main settlement here, Bolandia. See over there. We have that settlement. We've got this one across the water here, that one in the distance, this one on the water here. Certainly, within a few generations of this group of settlements we've built, it would be one large settlement around the lake. A city, really. So we've got a water access problem here with these properties. And it's because this hasn't been finished, so we'll set that to the highest priority. And this one also to a very high priority. And I don't think we've got a massive workers. No, doing nothing. Have we worked our way through the grain? We have, yeah. So we can free up the windmill workers at the least. Splendid. Have things stabilised nicely over in Ironheart. Looking pretty good. Let's upgrade these burgish plots. And then swing on down to here. So we're making use of, let's get the hunting camp active. And let's get some hunting hounds, that sounds great. And let's up the priority of the foragers hut there. Head back over here. And there is certainly a lot going on. Do we have anything more we can upgrade over here? Nope, that looks good. And then we'll head back over all the way past the Lost to Boatlandia. Look at all the people working their way around. Let's cross over the river. This long camp can be gotten rid of now, we don't need this here. And for all the work of these people here, they have a yarn to show for it. Not the most productive bunch. It looks like the towers that were taken down are starting to go back up. And let's up priority on construction for these two as well, because we do need those completed sooner rather than later so they can start becoming operational. And here we have, the manor has completed construction. Turns out, pretty much all of the lag issues we were having with the game were related to the manor being constructed. So now the manor is up, hopefully frame rates will return to normal, and the game will stop worrying quite so much about how the timber is going to turn into a wall. Let's take a moment to appreciate this structure. It's the first time I've built a proper manor in this game, and I think it looks wonderful. It looks like a proper heart to our town. I love the blossom trees we've got inside. I think from afar as you come in, it's clear that this is the centre of Boatlandia. Travelling on this road here, the walls and the towers rise in the backdrop above the houses, above the trees, and in the centre, the tiled roof of the manor stands proud. I think manors have been a really lovely addition to this game, and it's certainly been a fantastic addition here in our village. It's imposing, it suits the style well. It looks like they've even solved the door height issue that they were having during construction. I love the central gate here with the surrounding guard towers. Got the centre thoroughfare right through past the manor and out the other side. And the manor servants and dwellings inside, penned in the orchards and trees, and a defensible palisade all the way around the outside. So what I'd quite like to do is bring out our retinue. Which we can finally increase in size. We haven't quite got the money, so I guess the issue was the manor was under some kind of construction before. So it's nice to see that's fixed. And we're going to need to get a little bit more money in our coffers before we can fully equip this team. But what we can do is lead them on out of the manor. And I'd like to try placing them on the wall. If we can find somewhere we can rally them, that is. Apparently that's the muster square. And let's place them on the wall. In fact, let's go either side. Why are you leaving? I don't think you've understood. Let's reduce taxation here in line with our other regions. Can you get up there? Not from where you're standing. Ah, there we are. Let's click on that. And hopefully we'll see our brave men charge up to the top of the tower. Admittedly, there's a few gaps, but fortunately we have equipped our troops with levitation shoes, and they can easily bridge that gap. Boatlandia is truly a settlement full of wonder. And as they all float into position, let's look at them on the wall. Now, how about that? Usable walls. And gates we can open and close. Ooh, last couple of retinue working their way through. And we can close the other one or open them both back up again as well. That's really cool. Okay lads, you can go back to lolling about as you were before. Via a tower that you... I see. They've taken off their armour and in the process they've lost their levitation boots, so they're having to use this tower here instead. Take your time, mate, it's alright. A bit scared of ladders. We'll leave them to it, shall we? They don't seem to know what they're doing. But in all seriousness, how pretty is that? Absolutely fantastic. So that frees up the population to get back on with construction in other areas. So hopefully we'll get these sheep farms constructed, we'll finish the property upgrades that have been a long time coming over here. And hopefully as well, we have, yep, the granary and storehouse have been upgraded. Let's get a couple of additional workers here, and we'll get a worker at that tavern. And we'll upgrade these properties where we have the option to do so. This tannery is working hard. And they're using all the hides available to them to make leather. And we've got 83 wool, so we've got a fair bit of wool, and still only a little bit of yarn, and no linen because obviously we've turned all of the small amount of flax we had into it. And just as soon as that weaver's workshop is open, we'll look to get people in there working away. And let's get all of these set up for animal pens, so we can massively boost our hide and subsequently leather production, with the aim of producing enough shoes to clad the entire population of Oatlandia. Splendid. Work is well underway on those, and we want to get people moving in as quickly as possible. And with those people moved in, we can get them working rearing and then slaughtering goats. Forest over here is looking pretty good. Got our new housing over here as well. Let's also set these up. Animal pens. Really double down on shoe production, because that's something we can take advantage of, even if we are hung up in as far as the yarn is concerned with the weavers. And we're a little shy on quinces, so it might be we want to open up another burgish plot at some point with more trees again. And that might be something quite nice to do over here. Let's check that we have enough water for our residents over here. There isn't a load of supply options nearby, actually. We'll get another one in there. And we can squeeze one in there. And we are swiftly approaching the time of the year where we start thinking about harvesting again. Just 48 days away from harvest beginning. So as we sweep across the ever-growing Oatlandia, let's check up on this little storehouse. They're gathering some materials now, so perhaps they're not completely useless. Although the productivity would suggest they're not the most useful either. And let's also quickly get our final man for the retinue, like so. And yeah, so still got the clothing issue. Don't think that's going away anytime soon. So let's head on over to Manor. And look at all the properties ready for upgrading now that we've got the most advanced of requirements fulfilled. Still can't quite believe I was missing the fact that we needed water to the degree that I was. But never fear. We did notice in the end. And we have got upgrades taking place. We've seen the issue. We're addressing the issue. So we have got apples, pears. This will be quinces, so we'll build an orchard there. So we can get those trees planted ready. And we've also got all these properties here ready to be upgraded as well. Which is important for the income they provide. And but before it upgraded, we'll make sure we're ordering in livestock to fill the properties up. So we'll get all of those upgrades underway over here. And we are indeed closing in on the harvest over here as well. We'll skip on over to frost check. And if we have the workers, let's get some of these foresters' huts active because it's starting to look a little bit bare here. Let's also build a road across here. And let's get down a couple of foresters over here so they can work on foresting a little bit deeper into that area that we're thinking of having fully wooded. And we don't need them working there for just a minute. We'll get a couple of extra workers at the forager's hut to make the most of that. And we'll also fill up the other fisherman's hut. Look at that. I really love these properties. The reflection in the waterline as they're lined up next to the lake. It's again back straight on with ordering all the livestock we need. And just as soon as we've done that, we'll get to upgrading those homes that are ready to be upgraded. And then we'll get to expanding living spaces as well. Although not for a minute. We probably want to fill these properties up before we start expanding too far. And we'll get some more water access down, which we need, believe it or not, despite the fact they are next to a lake. Well, they say they need wells, then we'll give them wells. Ah, wonderful. So, the additional vegetable plots. So, we need everything. Carrots most of all. So we'll make this one carrot, this one cabbage, this one beets. And we'll upgrade those properties that are ready to be upgraded also. Over in Lagstrasse, now goes the new housing development. More properties ready for upgrading. Really is a time of growth across the kingdom and across all manors. We will build a manor here eventually, but given the experience we had with the other manor, that will be probably in between episodes. Because it does take a little while. And it does tend to lag the game quite a lot while it's happening. Deforestation, but also reforestation seems to be going well. And as we start to get all these additional workers, I think next season we can really start thinking about activating some of these fields down here. Then let's flip on over to the last land. Let's get a family working at the forager's hut. And then let's get family out of the logging camp and we'll get them to build our first additional housing to have a decent garden space. Let's build these here. How far do we want to fill these out? I think that's pretty good, but I wonder if we can do better. I don't really want to cleave into this too much because that's a good space for trees or wood. Let's maybe come across here. How's that look? Very reasonably big plots. Maybe let's just start with one here. That's nice. So that can be one. Then maybe let's get another. Curved along this road. And let's get a little road here. Around the hitching post. And that looks awful. Get rid of those two. Let's go like this. They don't want to be connected, do they? Okay, I'm going to have to do that. Get rid of that one there. And see what we can do about putting some property in here. Okay, those are two reasonable sized plots. So we'll build those there. And they can be our additional supply of food. So that gives them something to get on with in the last stand. And it looks like we've got a few piecemeal upgrades we can make over here in Ironheart. As usual, something that needs fixing. I wonder if we rebuild the manor here. So I'm wondering if it's because we didn't build the manor. We don't have access to a retinue, so let's demolish the manor. And where do we want to place our manor? I think the manor would be much better placed up here. So let's put the manor down here. And we'll get a garrison tower with it. Commit to that. And then connect this road back to the village. Via a couple of routes. Let's come right across the top here. Connect back down into the heart of the village. Lovely, that gives them something to work towards. And we are just 1 month away from beginning the harvest. That's all we have time for today, friends. I hope that you found this as relaxing to watch as I found it to make. I would love to hear any suggestions you have for these or other videos. Pop a comment below and I'll read it and respond. And if you enjoyed the video, then why not gift a like to it? As always, I appreciate you and your feedback. Until next time, cheerio.